The Self-Helpful Podcast is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining me as I talk with today's most important influencers, guides, and change makers to uncover what truly drives them and extract the big takeaway from their personal journey and their greatest wisdom. I'm your host, Kevin Miller, and this is Self-Helpful. In this episode, I wrap up our series on strong body, strong mind. And I'm going to give you a paradigm shifting analogy that I believe will forever change how you view your brain's ability in regards to the overall health of your body. I kicked off the series with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, whose focus is Muscle Centric Medicine. Her new book is called Forever Strong, a new science-based strategy for aging well. And the focus is on muscle built by protein and resistance training, and that it's key for our brain health and our long-term cognitive ability. And the concept is really a cultural shift, which you're about to hear about in a second. Then I also brought on Randy James, my close friend, medical doctor, and functional medicine expert, to talk about his experience with patients and his own growing understanding of the importance of skeletal muscle as it relates to overall health and longevity. Here now, I give you some highlights from the conversation, and again, start off with an analogy that I think will greatly alter how you view your care for your future health of your brain. Okay, all this talk about muscle and protein is only as relevant as the end result. What do we get out of it? Here's an analogy that I think will drive it home. If you want to grow a flowering or fruiting plant, the overall plant has to be healthy. If you deplete it of light, water, air, nutrients, and proper temperature, it's going to deteriorate, right? The flower is going to deteriorate. The fruit is going to deteriorate. Here's the important point. When a plant is deprived, that's it. What part is that? I mean, we just don't think about this. What part of the plant is first to go? It's not the roots. It's not the stem. It's not the leaves. It is the flower or the fruit. It cuts off supply to what we would say is the most glorious part of the plant in order to protect the core. So the flower wilts and the fruit wilts and it stops growing. And next, it loses leaves and it still protects its stem. And then it'll deteriorate there down to the roots. Well, your body, let's think about your body, our bodies, my body. It most wants to keep your heart beating. That's the core. It's got to keep your heart beating at the least. That's the core. If everything else shuts down, that's the roots in essence. If everything else shuts down and your brain's not working, your limbs aren't working, you're bedridden, your body is striving to keep that heart going. As once the heart stops, you're obviously done. So you want your brain, think about your brain radiating just gloriously, working perfectly like the flower or the fruit. And you've got to support the overall system from the roots up to get all you can out of that brain. We, especially in the Western culture, live under this myth that our body can be in jeopardy, but at least we can sit in the desk and work, right? No matter what, we can prop ourselves up and we can work and our brain's going to keep going. Well, it may be. It is not functioning at full capacity. And everybody's always going to think about an exception of somebody who was just, near destroyed and still getting good stuff out of their brain. That's great. How much more could they have gotten out of their brain? How much longer could they have gotten good stuff out of their brain? Don't look at the exceptions. Nobody wants to be exception. I don't think anybody's hearing this going, you know what? I hear this, but I think I can be the exception. I think I can let my body go to waste and my brain will still work great. That's a myth, one. And two, who wants to be that exception? I mean, look around at you at the culture right now, the rise in cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, early onset dementia, brain fog. We're walking around, our bodies, our stems are making it, out of the house, out of bed, off the couch, up the stair, maybe up the stairs, up to the elevator. And we're making it, albeit with pains and less ability. Our heart's still pumping, but our brains, that flower and the fruit of us, is not getting what it needs. It is deprived. And we look at the mental health state that we're in, And it's jointly right along there with all these chronic health issues that we have arise in everything from diabetes to heart disease to cognitive problems. Let me drive this tragedy home further. If you take away the flower and the fruit of the plant, it's not just the glory and beauty that you lose, but it's actually the sustenance for others. Bees and hummingbirds and more, they get their nourishment from that flower. We take away our brains, our mental health, our cognitive abilities, and we leave those around us with just a shell, just the stem and the roots maybe. They don't get your joy and hope and inspiration and connection. And that's the point here. We're not connecting the health and wellness of our overall body to our actual brain, which is where our mind exists, where our mental state exists, and our ability to think, creatively think, critically think, to have hope, to have joy, to have faith when things get hard. So we need proper nutrition from food. We need water and hydration. We need sleep. We need air. We need to strengthen our bodies, the roots and stems and leaves of our human plant, in essence. And skeletal muscle is key. And you don't need to look like Thor, but you need to have enough muscle to be moving around with ease, carrying and lifting and bending and crouching and standing and climbing stairs with energy and ability. If your body can do that, then your mind likewise is going to go along with that. Again, I pointed this out in one of the previous episodes in this series that we look at these older people who are into weightlifting and resistance training, especially, and I'd say even more so than cardio, which we'll hit in just a second. But when we, they're doing an interview with them and they're showing their muscles and not paying attention to the person who's 100% cognitively there. We don't have one of these old people, not that I've seen, who is jumping down and doing some burpees and lifting some weights, and they're 90 years old and they're just cognitively gone, drooling otherwise, blank stare. It just doesn't go hand in hand. If your body is fit and well, so is your brain almost always. So let's talk about that. So there's the analogy. All right. There's the analogy. Now let's talk about, again, the highlights of what we got from Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, Dr. Randy James. Muscle. We're talking about skeletal muscle. We're not talking about bodybuilding and Arnold Schwarzenegger and massive biceps. We're talking about just the muscle to do daily life. Gabrielle Lyon said the quality of your life is a direct correlation to your muscle health. The quality of your life is a direct correlation to your muscle health. Now, there are also correlations to your quality of life, also good relationships and lots of things. Okay. But this is a main one that we're missing in our culture, muscle health. And she puts a lot of focus on the errancy of our focus being primarily on fat. And she's saying before, fat is an issue. Obviously, if you have too much fat, that's a strain on your system and you are at risk for a lot of issues. But she's saying she's almost just as much or more prone to look at muscle. Even if you've got some fat, can you have some muscle there? All right. The other thing is, muscle, we just tend to look at as an aesthetic because to get around, to survive in life, we don't necessarily need a bunch of muscle to exist. But it's not just aesthetic. And we're not talking about, again, bulky muscles. We're talking about skeletal muscle mass, not biceps, not quads, but overall, like if you had to hunt and gather in the old days, like our ancestors did, and their bodies or their days were just moving, lifting, walking, climbing, pulling, pushing, whatnot. We just don't have that. So we're looking at overall skeletal muscle. Again, not just bulk muscle mass. Okay. Another point here, working out is artificial. And it really is. Standing there and lifting a weight in the middle of a gym or in your own home just does not feel natural. What are you accomplishing? Again, we've been domesticated, as Dr. Gabrielle Lyon said, and we don't have to move again to survive. Now we do to thrive. Our bodies were made to thrive. It's just like an animal. We see an animal out in the wild capable of amazing things. We domesticate them and they start having the same problems that we do. So you've got to get past that and figure out how to find a way to do resistance training that you can sustain And it doesn't have to be the same. Again, may not want to be a muscle head, so-called, and go into the gym and lifting weights in front of other people. Figure it out. Do you need to buy some weights for your home? Do you need to join a class somewhere that leads you through this, like a CrossFit type thing? Do you need to get a personal trainer? All of that is time and money. That's what keeps us from doing most things, especially when it's not something we enjoy. We'd rather take our time and money and go see a movie or do some entertainment or do something fun, which I get. And again, I am a cardio guy. I get great joy and pleasure out of going out on a trail on my bike or running. And I do enjoy that. And there's, great benefit in that. It's not resistance training. I do not get great joy from doing resistance training, from doing pull-ups and push-ups and dips and burpees and lifting weights and doing squats and stuff. It's not my thing. I have to figure out what makes it work for me. For me, it was investing on Craigslist on used weights. And I have a full rec room at home. That's what gets me to do it, because I'm not somebody who's going to go to a gym and whatnot. I have done times of employing a trainer, somebody to tell me what to do. We're going to be having somebody on the show soon to talk about that. But you got to figure out what's a way that you can do it, that you can sustain. And, it could be coming up with an activity that causes you to do physical movement. Every fall season, we cut wood at my home. We literally cut down the standing dead trees or trees that are already down. We cut them and drag them and whatever. It's a great physical workout, but I'm just not doing that every day or every other day even, or a couple of times a week. We do it for a little while and then we just don't need to again. And there's nothing really in my life that necessitates movement like that. So again, I got to go artificially do that. I just want to commiserate that sometimes it can feel goofy, but it just is, because we have a lifestyle now where we don't have to move necessarily to live. Next point. What is the best exercise? What is the best way to do that? And we talked about that for years. I've talked about with Dr. Randy James, his answer to what's the best exercise. And he would say, whatever it is you'll do. That's fair, especially if you're totally sedentary. Getting somebody off the couch, anything they'll do is going to be of a benefit to their body. Now, we are going to go a step further here and say that to do some resistance training, we're going to give kind of a priority here. Now, again, I love cardio. I don't want to be somebody who has muscle and I can't run a mile. I mean, there's great benefits to cardio. We're not minimizing that at all. But I am, even as the endurance athlete that I've been my entire life, I'm going to start elevating resistance training and making it kind of a priority. Like maybe I'll do that. Before I can go run, I got to do 3 sets of push-ups. Before I go ride, I need to do some pull-ups. I need to do some curls. I need to do some squats, whatever that is, and giving that a priority. I'm not going to give up cardio. Now, push comes to shove. That's a relevant thing. If you've only got 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever, and you're only going to do one thing, should it be cardio or should it be resistance training? It's a strong case that resistance training might be the priority. Now, you can also do those without a lot of recovery. Do a set of something, do a set of squats and recover for a minute and do them again. And over however long you work out, 10 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it may be, that your heart rate is elevated. That is some cardio. So there's a benefit there. You can do that by not taking real long breaks in between. That again, we're not talking about bulking up like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we are talking about doing some resistance training to burn, till your muscles burn. Think about that. If you do something with your biceps, you are tearing the muscle down so that it can grow bigger. Big point here that I want you to hear though. If I am doing push-ups per se, let's say you say, okay, I'm going to do push-ups. That's something we can all do. You can drop down in your office or in your home or whatever and do some push-ups. It works out your arms, your shoulders, your core. It's a great overall body. If you do burpees where you're then standing up and jumping, that's a great overall body workout. They're really hard. And if you do that though, and let's just go with push-ups and you drop down and you can do 3 or 5, whatever it may be. And you do them and you maybe give it a day of rest and you do them again, do some sets. You start doing these consistently. You get up to where you can do 20. Let's just say 20. Okay. 20 push-ups. And it's going to be different for men and women. And that's fair. Don't get caught up in that. And it's not just men being strength. Women also generally have breasts. They have extra weight there that guys don't. It's not fair. So you're not trying to do the same amount necessarily, but you work up. Let's say you start and you increase by 4. You can do 5 push-ups and you keep doing them over time, little by little, until you work up to where you can do 20. It's a big deal. That's hard. It's breaking the muscle down, building it up bigger. Once you get to that point, 20 push-ups, let's say, or 10 or 40, whatever it is. Once you get to that point, you think, man, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling stronger. I can feel the strength in my chest and my arms and whatnot. And you say, I'm good with that. Again, we're not looking for a continual growth here. We're talking about a level of muscle mass that even Dr. Lyon said there's not some perfect number. There's not really a way to equate that. But you come to a point where you feel good and able and capable. Maintaining that is so easy. It's so much easier. Sometimes I feel like I can maintain I have a push-up routine. It's different from the norm, but I can maintain being able to do my push-ups, be able to jump up and do pull-ups on a bar, to be able to do dips. I can maintain that by doing a couple sets a few times a week. On Monday, I do a couple sets of push-ups. Nothing on Tuesday, maybe nothing on Wednesday. Thursday, I do a bunch of dips. A couple of days later, I do a bunch of pull-ups or whatever it is. And I may change around and just do one of each or whatever it is that I can maintain, that my body can jump in and do those 20 or 20 or 40 or whatever, where when I first started out, I could do so few and it'll maintain. The maintenance is so much easier. All right. Dr. Lyon talked about the older the muscle, the younger the brain. This is a great message to pass on to anyone, but especially the youth. But at any of us, the sooner we start, the better. The longer we have muscle, the more apt we are to keep a younger brain. There's a benefit to starting as early as possible. I've been talking to my kids about that. Again, think about that. Well, here is a cyclist. So I was a pro cyclist, right? So I've been racing bikes since I was 10 and riding avidly ever since that, 10 years old. And they used to talk about muscle memory. I mean, people still do muscle memory. Whatever you do, your muscles remember how to do it. Okay. I think that's a bit of a misnomer. Do they remember, or they are just innately equipped? I read a story one time about cyclists specifically. That's such a specific sport. It's actually, it gets you out of balance. You're a pair of legs and that's about it. You don't want anything else but a pair of legs. But when you do that, the amount of extra blood vessels literally growing to the blood, your body's going, holy smokes, every day this person is going out and riding. We got to send more blood over there. We're actually going to grow more blood vessels down there. So it's not only muscle memory, it's muscle ability. So if I go for, like right now, as I sit here, I have my arm out of a sling, but I'm over 2 weeks out of doing it hardly anything because I broke 7 bones. And at some point, I'm going to get past that. I'm going to get back on the bike. Let's say a month has gone by or 2 months or whatever since I've been able to train, and I'm going to have lost some fitness. I'm going to have lost muscle mass, but man, all those blood vessels are down there. They're going to kick it in. I will get back into shape, cycling shape specifically, so much faster than anybody else. My progress will be that much further. Think about that again for your overall body. So if you are a young person and you keep doing it, you stay active, you will be able to stay active longer and your brain is going to stay younger. That was the message from Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. Now, again, everybody is so prone to take exceptions and go, oh man, I know this guy and he was just one of those huge muscle bound workout guy and he actually died young and he looks terrible. Yeah. When you overdo it, and especially if you're taking steroids and whatnot, and pounding way more food than your body should be trying to assimilate to keep up with that muscle growth, that's not health. But you can put that to anybody, to any extreme sport. I have friends who do a lot of these ultra endurance things where they go out and run 100 miles. They do that for the achievement, for what it does for them psychologically, mentally, their own sense of well-being and confidence, whatever. But when they go out and run 100 miles, that is not health. That's not creating health. That's deteriorating their body. And even as I look at elite athletes, a lot of those people, they don't always have great health later in life because they've way overdone it. And again, we're not talking about doing that. We're not talking about extreme measures here. Okay. Another point. Biomarkers don't include muscle mass. So even if you go to a an untraditional doctor, an alternative doctor, a lot of times they're looking at in-depth. We talk a lot about in-depth labs and advanced diagnostics. A lot of times still they're not looking at muscle mass, and they need to be. Now, with Dr. Randy James, functional medicine, they actually have a $10,000 machine that you stand on, and it actually measures your muscle mass. That should be something that we're doing. If we're looking at your overall health, we're looking at how much you sleep, what all your genetics, and your biomarkers of health. We should be looking at your muscle mass or lack thereof, just as we are looking at your body fat percentage. You can't get that a lot of places. If you want to find out your body mass and look to increase that, you need to find some place that can do that. It's probably going to be a functional medicine or an alternative medicine or a high-end health organization that's going to have some kind of a machine, because you need some technology to be able to do that. But to find out your muscle mass and see that growth is significant. Another point, I mentioned it before, think of more muscle instead of less fat. It'd be best to have both, obviously. And again, the more fat that you have, the more taxed your body is. Too much fat is absolutely detrimental. But what Gabrielle is really leading us to is too little muscle. Too little muscle. And I know a lot of people who are thin-ish, but they are not fit. They do not have muscle tone, and they are not helping their life with that. We need to get some muscle, and we could even put that somewhat before fat. And obviously, if you are pursuing muscle, building muscle, you will by proxy generally be losing some fat as well. Okay, let's talk real quick about protein. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but there is, to feed that muscle growth, there needs to be some nutrients. Dr. Lyon, again, focused so much on protein. This is a volatile topic when we get into animal products and meat and whatnot, and protein consumption and carbohydrates. Now, I want you to hear, she did talk about, I think we talked about this in part 2 more than part 1, that she personally consumes plenty of carbohydrates. She doesn't really fret about it. She just makes protein her priority. Her call to us was 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. Okay, so I'm actually heavier right now. I'm probably 170, maybe pushing above that. With the muscle that I would like to have, I probably should be 170, 175. So my ideal body weight with the muscle I want would actually maybe be a little bit more than I am right now. So 1 gram. So if I'm 100, that's 170 grams for me. I think we talked about a can of tuna is something like 46 grams or whatever. We're talking like 4 cans of tuna. I do not eat that much protein. I don't even know if I eat half that much. I have not made this shift yet. I'm also, in amidst this big injury, which is probably a good time to, but I haven't taken time. I'm going to do that. Now, I did look at Dr. Mark Hyman, another leader in functional medicine, somebody that Dr. Gabrielle Lyon is associated with. And I saw he put 0.8 grams, 0.8 grams, 0.8 grams, 0.1. It's still a lot. So if you look at the math is easy. If you look at 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. So if your ideal body weight's 150 pounds, we're saying 150 grams. But my gosh, if you get 130, that's still pretty great. We did talk about what kind of protein, and Dr. Lyon, Gabrielle, she was big on meat. She says it's the most accessible. I'm not going to go down that argument. There is a lot of people who argue that, and of course argue it for the, meat, how it affects the planet. You're going to have to make your own decision on that. I am going to increase my meat consumption. Now, I'll probably do it with fish primarily. It's what I like. I tend to digest it better. But if you want to do it as a vegetarian, you can do that. I think you're going to have to eat more food, which is an issue because we're talking about a big quantity of food. But you look at that. I am personally going to be utilizing protein powders. That's an easy way to get it in and digest more protein when you're trying to increase it a lot. And again, protein powders, you can look at, I think Gabrielle talked about whey protein. That's dairy. Some people have dairy problems and that's not going to work. You can look at there's pea protein. That's a lentil. Some people like me have problems with pea protein. There's all different kinds. There's way too many. It's frustrating. You may just look at what you want to spend because some of them, I think whey protein is also the cheapest. How much do you care about organic and environmental issues? What food intolerances do you have? I, again, have compassion for the complexities there. You may just need to try a few different styles of protein powder if you want to incorporate that in. So I'm still working on my plan there. That's a big part. That's what I'm going to end on for the most part is we've got to have a plan to eat that way and to exercise this way. We've got to have a plan every day. I had an assistant at one point, and she knows that I personally, this is not everybody, but I personally struggle with being confined. So to have my day regimented, I don't like that. I want to have spontaneity in that, built that in. But she says, Kevin, you got some routines, right? I said, yeah. She said, do you ever miss brushing your teeth in the morning? Well, no. Okay. She said, do you ever miss your coffee? And now I put in tea in the morning? Nope. Do you miss your morning time, like your solitude in the morning to prepare for your day? Man, not often. Okay. Those are your routines. Can you, and she was trying to, at the point, trying to get me to get in a routine of doing podcasts consistently. It was back when we weren't posting consistently. And so same thing with this. Can I get into a routine of, can you get in a routine of resistance training? Doesn't have to be every day, whatever works for you. Maybe it's every day a little bit. Maybe it's every other day. It needs to be consistent, and you do some resistance training. How much? Again, right now, if you're not doing much, anything is better than nothing. If you spend 15 minutes and you just do bicep curls, or you do squats, or you do pull-ups, push-ups, dips, whatever it may be, whatever works for you, but you do some resistance training for so much. I think with anything, they've always talked about kind of 20 minutes. I think that's a good thing. If you're doing less than 20 minutes, it's hard to get a whole lot of benefit, but you don't need to do an hour generally to have good skeletal muscle mass, but have a plan of resistance training and then feeding it. And this was not just the protein that Gabrielle talked about, was not just about feeding muscle. It was about feeding our overall body health and wellness. And her research on that protein helps us overall with our, again, overall health and wellness and strength overall. One thing on this is a great message to talk about with somebody and find a partner with, whether it's your spouse, a friend, a coworker, somebody who you can get on board. And especially if this is out of your comfort zone, if you're somebody who doesn't work out, you never have worked out, even if you walk some or you run some or you take a Zumba class or you do whatever, but you've never really like lifted weight. That's so far out. Find somebody to do this with is so powerful. If you can afford it, to find a coach. I've had multiple people on the show who have said, when I talk about their personal health and wellness, that have said, I remember a couple specifically who said, you know what? I hate working out. I hate it. This is what they said. I know about health and wellness. I'm in self-help arena. I get it, but I hate it. So I coughed up the money and they have a personal trainer. One individual said, I have a personal trainer that shows up at my house and knocks out on my door. And if I'm in my pajamas, I got to come to the door and we go do the workout. It's the only way I get myself to do it. I mean, I appreciate that so much. That's like me with finances. I am not going to do it. So I pay for an accountant, a CPA firm to run that. And then I have to have a bookkeeper beyond that to go through the details. That's my investment. So I make it happen, but I find a way to do it that is palatable to me. So you've got to as well. I hope this analogy resonated with you of the plant. If your brain is the flower and the glory of your life, it's your mind, it's your mental state, it's your hopes, your dreams, your joys. It is the flower of you. It is the fruit of you. And when you start depleting your body, it's one of the first places that's going to be taken away from while your body protects your heart. It's got to keep that heart beating. So whatever it needs to start shutting down to keep that heart beating, it's going to start shutting down. We need to feed our bodies overall. We need to have strength overall. We need to have fitness and wellness in our body as the carrier of this beautiful mind that we have. Friends, thank you for joining me on this journey to elevate our own experience and improve the way we show up for others. I want to thank Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. Again, her focus is Muscle Centric Medicine. Her new book, if you're watching the video right over my shoulder here, is called Forever Strong, a new science-based strategy for aging well. You can find her podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, wherever you are, you should be able to find the Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, Lyon show. The Dr. Gabrielle Lyon Show. She talks about this kind of stuff every day. She has incredible guests on the show. You can find her and follow her on Instagram. She does a lot there. I think she's got, 400,000 or 500,000 followers there. And it's Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, Lyon, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. You can find her on Instagram. Also, thanks to Dr. Randy James, my buddy. You can find him at truelifemedicine.com, and you can engage with him there if you desire. And friends, if you appreciate the podcast here, I want to share it with others, please rate us on Spotify. Just give us a rating there, or leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcast. You can find us on YouTube and watch these shows at Kevin Miller CO. That's also where you'll find me on social media, where we have a lot of great clips of me with the guests and these profound messages that they're giving us. So in a real short form, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, you can find that and get great benefit from that. You can share that with others. You can see if it's a show you want to listen to in full. And if you want to learn how to master your own inner drive, check out my book, What Drives You. It's on Amazon in any format you want. Until next time, stay driven.